When you're vibe coding an app, a lot of times you're building something that you eventually want to sell. I'm going to show you in this video how to easily go through and add Stripe to that app so you can start billing people and you can actually go out and market it and sell the product. The example today is an application that I've built recently. I'll show you the application and then I'll walk you through the process to add Stripe to the application. I've already done the process. We're going to go through it just step by step and show you each step of the way, some of the troubleshooting that I had to do, and each of the pieces that you need to have in order to make Stripe work in a vibe coded app. The application here is a database management tool to make editing databases really easy, make it easy to look through and see the schema and everything like that that you have set up. Because a lot of times, especially when people are new to databases, they don't know the command line tools and things like that. This makes it really easy to do that. So we'll take a quick tour of the tool here first so you can see what's built. It's really simple. You click to add a database, you put in the name, and you put in the connection string, which you can get from your database provider. Then when you open the database, you can click here and view anything in a table. We have this information in a table. Then I could click this and actually edit any of the information that's here, and then go down to the bottom and save the changes. And that immediately happens in the database. It's real time. I also have this set up so that you can quickly do a backup of the database. You click this button and it downloads a backup. If you mess up the database, let's say you're going through and the AI goes through and deletes a bunch of stuff or ruins the database in some fashion, you can then just click this import button and it will overwrite the database with backup, completely replace it with the backup that you took so that you're back where you started. It's a quick backup and restore tool to use here. And then you can edit and see anything in the database. You can search for stuff and find records and make sure everything is where you want it to be. That's the tool that I built. What I wanted to do is make it available so that people can subscribe to it. The plans were outlined here on the front page, but they didn't exist in any fashion at all. All that happened was when you signed up, you got the free plan, you got one database. That's it. It was just you sign up, you get one database. And that's all that existed. These were just placeholders and did nothing at all. So that's where we started. Then I used my favorite AI coding stack, which is Kilo Code. And I'm not sponsored by them or anything. This is just what I like to use. I use Kilo Code and I connect that to Claude Code. My Kilo Code has Claude Code connected down here. The first thing I did is I put it into ask mode with Sonnet 4.5, and I gave it this instruction. I said, we're going to plan an update. And I told it what happened. When users sign up, they're in with one free database. I want to extend that, offer the two other plans. I told it to review the homepage for those details because that's where they exist. I said, we'll have it flow like the sign up for free. They go to an intermediate page with the three plans. They can pick free or choose one of the other plans. And then it will take them to Stripe to pay. If they choose another plan, they return. Said we have to keep track of each month's payments with webhooks and turn off their access if they cancel. I said there's no refunds. Users get to keep the plans for their paid period if they cancel. And if they cancel, the account isn't deleted. They just lose access to click and view or interact with any other databases other than the one free. So defined the whole process of what I wanted to do with this Stripe integration, how the user experience should be. I said review the app and plan this upgrade with the fewest amount of changes, and told them I could provide the Stripe API keys as well. That was my prompt. I went through and analyzed the app here, came up with a plan for how this could be done. The plan looked pretty straightforward out of the gate here. This followed what I would expect for such an integration. I took it then to Orchestrator mode. So I switched over to Orchestrator. Now what this does for us, what Orchestrator does, is allows us to keep the entire plan in one context window. And then Orchestrator is going to sub out pieces of that plan to subagents. They get a smaller context with just a task. Then they report that task completed back to Orchestrator. The entire plan stays here, but one agent isn't having to keep track of the entire plan They're just keeping track of the subtasks. And then you have the orchestrator that knows the plan, but it's not filling up its context window, actually executing the tasks. So that's one of the things I love about KiloCode is it lets you do that. There are similar setups in some other applications as well. This is just the one I like. I said carefully implement this, sticking to the existing styles and using best practices for security. Tell me what keys, secrets, IDs to put in the .env when ready. It went through and started orchestrating this. It created a to-do list, which is to-do list is a feature you can turn on and off in KiloCode. I like to have it on for this sort of thing. It subbed out the tasks, and we'll just skim through those subbed tasks here because I didn't interact at this point. After giving it that command, it went through and did all of these subtasks, reported them back, and went through its checklist here to do each thing. Send a command, let it go, and then come back to it and start doing your testing and you're verifying that things were created correctly. If you're going to do this in a full vibe code mode and not code anything yourself here at all. Again, it went through several subtasks and kept each of those tasks in little context windows so nothing filled up, which gives you better results. It went through and created documentation. It's going to update the app, add the subscription user interface, and then create documentation for us, which Orchestrator is very good about doing documentation. We'll go down to there. It added the dashboard for subscription management, which ended up being in here. It'll be a little button right here. You're signed up. This account right here doesn't have a subscription, but it's a little button that's in here if you're signed up. Then go on down and added document. This documentation was really great that it put together here. And it's this Stripe setup markdown file, stripe setup.md. This is awesome because it gave all of the instructions. So even if you don't know Stripe and you haven't worked with it before or haven't done a lot with it, this writes the entire step-by-step how to do this setup both in dev and production. Now you do have to have a Stripe account, and then you're going to want to set up a Sandbox. So this is a Sandbox account that you can set up once you have a Stripe account. And that's where you do the dev work. These are the test orders that I did with this after setting it up. I ordered a basic plan and a premium plan to make sure the connection worked. And this is all in the dev mode. These aren't real transactions. You don't have to run a real credit card. You can use the test cards. When you have it write documentation for this, like we have here, that's just a feature in Orchestrator mode. Then you'll end up with a step-by-step how to actually get your Stripe details. In this case, we need the secret key, the webhook secret, and the price IDs. When you go to do the product setup and you create the product, after you do this, you'll be able to go into the product. This is something I see people make a mistake on quite often is they'll copy this product ID, not the price ID. You actually have to go in here to the pricing plan and copy the price ID right here. That's one of the places where I see people tend to get stuck when doing this is they'll copy the product ID and it won't work in that type of setup here. Once you have all of those in your .env file, but you're going to have your .env file over here in the application, then you're going to just follow the steps through your guide that it created. Now, this guide will be different for your application than it is for this example because your application may have different product structures, things like that. Just make sure it does write you one. And if it didn't write you one, ask it to write you a setup guide step by step, and it'll do that for you. All right. Then you have this here and it walks you through how to do the webhook testing. Now, this is necessary because Stripe has to send back a message to say the subscription was activated, that they paid, that the payment was successful in order to work properly so that you give people access when they've paid and you don't give them access when they haven't paid. That's what the webhooks do here. But walk through how to set that up and then be able to test that on development. So follow the steps. Again, if it didn't write a documentation, just have it write one for you, ask it to. Once you follow the steps, then you'll be able to do the testing. What we ended up with here was the ability for users to sign up. And we have a couple sign up paths. If they click there, they just start with the free plan, and we'll just give it a fake user here, create that account. And then what it does right here, this is the flow that I chose. You can choose your own flow and define this, but it goes here and says you can continue with the free plan, or it offers the other plans again, so you can upgrade. The same thing happens if you go back to the home page. Here I'm signed in, and if I log out and I go back here and I pick, say, a premium plan, now it starts with the premium plan, takes me to that page. We'll go ahead and we will create the account. Here it says you've selected the premium plan. Then it says continue with premium, or gives them the options. I chose this method because it lets people, if they click it and they're like, oh, I have price regret, or I decided I want to test, they don't actually have to go start over with their process. They can just go ahead and choose something else. Then they always get the option to upgrade once they're in the account. All right. And then this, once they click it, takes them to Stripe checkout. Here, it would go ahead and do Stripe checkout. They do their payment, put in their card information. When you are doing this in dev mode, you will use one of the test cards. And Stripe test cards, you can just Google them. There's a list of them. In the documentation here that it wrote for the setup, it listed several of the test cards. All right, so you can test multiple different functionality pieces there, and explains that. But even if you don't get this in your documentation that it writes out for you for testing, you can just look up Stripe test cards, and all of this information is publicly available on the internet. Once you've tested, then you're going to switch over to your production mode. What that is when you push this out to wherever you're hosting it. In my case, I pushed it out to Railway, which is my favorite host for this sort of thing. Right here, I deploy a new project. When I push it out there, you're going to switch out all of those testing codes with your production code. You're going to then put in a live secret key for your Stripe account. You're going to move these products. So these products right here, you can copy them to live mode. Once you've created them and tested them, you don't have to go and recreate these products. You copy them to live mode, and then you go into your live account and get that price ID. It'll have a new price ID for the live mode versus the test mode. So you're going to go get that and replace that out. And again, it will depend slightly on your application, what variables exactly you will need, but you will be able to get that in your documentation that you have it right. In this case, it was a secret key, the webhook secret, and the price IDs for the two plans. You're going to go and get production versions of those. In the documentation here, you can have it write you instructions for exactly how to get that information. Here is the instruction set for how to do this in production. And if it doesn't write this for you, have it write you an instruction set for how to do these details in Stripe. So you can just go through the steps and get that information set up right away in Stripe. Then you copy that over to your production mode and put it in your secrets in Railway. When you're in the app in Railway and you've got it deployed here, you're going to go into variables and you'll be able to put those production secrets in here. Don't put in the test ones unless you intend to run tests on production, but you can do that. You can put in the test ones here and test it and then replace them back out and redeploy with the production ones if you wish to do that. In my case, I'd already tested it very extensively, so I just went ahead and put in the production ones here so that they work on production. That's how you would put those in and make sure that they are working live, not just on your local machine. If you run into any issues with it, you're going to probably continue part of the conversation here with the setup in Orchestrator. So for example, when it wrote the instructions here for me, one of the first things it did was it guessed at a port, and it said that the server was running on port 5001. And when you start this server, it does not run on 5001. That I know, I can see in the terminal. So I asked it to fix that. That was the first thing. And it just spotted that those wouldn't match. It corrected that for me. I did it in Orchestrator and it subbed out the task, right? It sent it out. But I kept it in this conversation so that Orchestrator had that context, but the agent doing the work would have a fresh context window. But went ahead and did that for me. And then I did the rest of the setup, put that all in, and it was ready to go. Now, there was one error I encountered in the first sign up that is actually pretty common in an application like this. And you won't just see it in Stripe integrations, you'll see it in a lot of places. But when you go to do a sign up action or a sign in action, or maybe post something to the app once you're signed in, you will sometimes get this unexpected token. And generally, this means one of two things. Either the user information isn't being sent properly with the request, or the application has the routes in the wrong order. So when the request is being sent, the application is sending back the wrong answer. It's sending back the wrong page. It's catching that route with maybe a 404 page or maybe just the home page rather than sending the API response back from the server. You can simply copy the console log and copy the error in and ask it to review. Again, you'll do this in ask mode so that it can find the issue first. In this case, the routes were in the wrong order. So then you switch over, in this case, to code mode because it's a single task, have it fix the issue. And it went through and fixed the route. It was 2 prompts to fix the routes. And we were ready to go. And then I did a little testing and I checked in on the results in the server here to make sure that those were correct and verified that those are what we wanted. From that point, it was ready to go. If you do it in this order, you use something like Orchestrator, you're going to end up with a application that is fairly quickly ready to start selling online. And that's what we have here. If you want to continue to learn more about how to use vibe coding tools effectively and build applications that work, check out the other videos in my channel. Subscribe so you find out when I launch a new one. In the description here, I'm going to put a link for these tools that I've shown here in this video. There will also be a link there if you wish to book time for me to look at your app. Maybe you've tried this and it's a little stuck. Go ahead and book a spot. I'll take a look at it for you and help you get unstuck and get your app ready so you can start making sales.